Baltimore witnessed a night that many fans will remember for a very long time. Under the stadium lights, surrounded by thousands of excited armies, Jimin delivered a performance filled with energy, elegance, emotion, and an unmistakable stage presence. What made the night particularly memorable was not simply the scale of the concert, but the way Jimin seemed to transform every second on stage into a moment worth talking about. From the instant he appeared, the atmosphere changed. The crowd erupted, light sticks illuminated the venue, and countless fans immediately raised their phones to capture what was happening. Yet even through thousands of screens, Jimin's presence remained impossible to ignore. His movements were precise, his expressions constantly changed with the music, and his ability to move between powerful choreography and emotional storytelling once again demonstrated why he has become one of the most recognizable performers of his generation. Baltimore did not feel like just another stop on a massive tour. For many fans, it felt like a celebration of everything that makes Jimin such a captivating performer. And as clips from the concert began circulating online, the conversation quickly expanded beyond ARMY. Fans started discussing his dancing, his styling, his confidence, his expressions, and the way he commanded the stage without needing to do anything excessive. The most remarkable part was the balance. Jimin did not have to constantly chase attention. Attention naturally followed him. During the high-energy sections of the performance, his movements were sharp and explosive. Every transition looked deliberate. Every gesture appeared connected to the rhythm. Even the smallest movement of his hands, shoulders, or head could become a visual focal point. Then, when the music demanded something softer, Jimin could completely change his presence. His expression became more intimate. His movements became smoother. His eyes seemed to communicate the emotion of the song directly to the audience. That contrast is one of the reasons his performances continue to attract such intense attention. A performer can be technically excellent and still struggle to make an audience feel connected. Jimin has repeatedly demonstrated another quality: emotional communication. He does not simply perform the choreography, he performs the feeling behind it. And Baltimore appeared to bring that quality to the surface in an especially powerful way. The audience response was immediate. Every major movement was met with screams. Every close-up seemed to create another wave of excitement. When Jimin smiled, the reaction was enormous. When he intensified his choreography, the volume inside the venue seemed to rise again. It was the kind of atmosphere in which a performer and audience continuously feed energy into one another. Jimin gave energy to Baltimore. Baltimore gave it right back. That exchange became one of the defining features of the night. But there was another element that made the performance particularly interesting: the reaction beyond the venue. As fan-recorded clips spread across social media, people who were not physically present in Baltimore began experiencing small pieces of the concert through their screens. Some viewers focused on his dancing. Others talked about his facial expressions. Fashion enthusiasts noticed his styling. Performance fans analyzed his technique. And once again, the discussion surrounding Jimin moved beyond the boundaries of a traditional K-pop audience. This is where the idea of global stars being impressed by his performance became especially fascinating. Jimin has reached a level of international recognition, where his name is already familiar far beyond the world of BTS. His collaborations, fashion appearances, solo achievements, and performances have repeatedly placed him in conversations involving major figures in entertainment and fashion. So when a performance like Baltimore begins attracting widespread attention, it becomes more than a concert recap. It becomes another example of how Jimin's influence operates across different parts of global pop culture. The most striking thing about his Baltimore appearance was his confidence. There was a sense that Jimin knew exactly how to use the enormous stage. He did not appear overwhelmed by the scale of the venue. Instead, he seemed to make the stage feel smaller. Whether he was standing at the center, moving across the stage, interacting with the crowd, or performing demanding choreography, his presence remained remarkably consistent. That is difficult to achieve. Large stadium performances can make artists look physically small. The distance between the performer and the audience can create a barrier. Jimin has a way of overcoming that barrier. His facial expressions become part of the performance. His body language becomes another form of communication. And his connection with the audience becomes a visual component of the show itself. At Baltimore, fans repeatedly captured moments that demonstrated this ability. A glance toward one section of the crowd could trigger an explosion of screaming. A smile could become a viral clip. A small dance variation could become a topic of discussion. A powerful pose could dominate timelines. This is the phenomenon surrounding Jimin. He can turn moments that might appear ordinary on paper into moments that feel extraordinary when experienced live. One of the strongest elements of the night was his dancing. Jimin's dance style has always been distinctive because it combines technical precision with fluidity. His movements can be extremely sharp, but they rarely look mechanical. There is always a sense of musicality. He appears to hear the rhythm not only through the music, but through his entire body. When the beat becomes aggressive, his movements can become explosive. When the melody becomes delicate, his body seems to soften. When the song reaches an emotional peak, his expressions become part of the choreography. This ability to adapt physically to the emotional structure of a song is one of the reasons dancers and performance enthusiasts frequently pay close attention to him. Baltimore offered another opportunity to see that quality at full scale. And for fans watching from the audience, there was something almost overwhelming about seeing those movements translated onto a stadium stage. The choreography was not merely something to be completed. It became storytelling. Jimin's body became another instrument. His hands, shoulders, eyes, posture, and facial expressions all contributed to the same message. That is why simply describing his Baltimore performance as good dancing would fail to capture what made it special. It was a complete performance. And then there was his fashion. Jimin's relationship with fashion has become one of the most recognizable parts of his public image. His association with major luxury fashion has helped establish him as an artist whose influence extends from music into global style culture. In Baltimore, fans once again paid close attention to what he wore, how the outfit moved during choreography, how the lighting interacted with the styling, and how effortlessly he carried the overall look. The clothing did not overpower the performer. Instead, it became part of the performance. That distinction matters. A spectacular outfit can attract attention, but only a strong performer can make the outfit feel unforgettable. Jimin has repeatedly demonstrated the ability to do exactly that. His stage styling seemed to complement his movements rather than restrict them. Every turn, every step, and every dramatic pose added another visual layer. For fashion fans, it became another reason to discuss the Baltimore appearance. For ARMY, however, the most important thing was still Jimin himself. And that was obvious from the audience reaction. Thousands of people were not simply watching a fashion icon. They were watching an artist they had followed for years. They knew the songs. They knew the choreography. They knew the smallest details of his stage personality. So when Jimin delivered a particularly powerful moment, the reaction carried years of emotional connection behind it. That emotional connection is difficult to manufacture. It is built over time. And Baltimore demonstrated how strong that connection has become. Another unforgettable element was Jimin's interaction with the audience. There is something different about a stadium performer who can make a massive crowd feel personally acknowledged. Jimin frequently uses eye contact, gestures, smiles, and playful expressions to communicate with fans. At Baltimore, those interactions created some of the night's most emotionally charged moments. Fans screamed his name. Jimin responded with smiles. The crowd became louder. Jimin reacted again. It became a continuous conversation without words. For a few seconds, thousands of people could feel as if Jimin was looking directly at them. That is one of the hidden powers of live performance. A concert is technically a gathering of tens of thousands of people. Emotionally, however, it can feel like a collection of individual moments. One fan remembers a smile, another remembers a gesture, someone else remembers a dance move. Another remembers the instant Jimin looked toward their section. Each person leaves with a slightly different memory of the same night. That is how a concert becomes personal. Baltimore appeared to produce thousands of those personal memories. And then came the inevitable social media explosion. Fans began posting clips, screenshots appeared, slow-motion edits circulated, performance compilations accumulated views, people compared different moments. Some fans focused on his dancing. Others focused on his vocals. Others were fascinated by his expressions. And some simply wrote that they could not believe they had witnessed the performance in person. This is where Jimin's ability to generate viral moments becomes particularly interesting. He does not need a manufactured controversy. He does not need a dramatic announcement. Sometimes, the performance itself is enough. A few seconds of choreography can become a trending topic because people genuinely want to share what they just saw. A facial expression can become a meme. A vocal moment can become a fan favorite. A stage interaction can become an emotional story. Baltimore had all of those ingredients. But perhaps the most fascinating discussion centered on Jimin's ability to attract attention from people outside the immediate BTS fandom. Over the years, Jimin's performances have been observed by musicians, dancers, actors, fashion professionals, television personalities, and other major figures in entertainment. That broader recognition matters because it demonstrates that his appeal is not limited to one audience. A great performer can impress fans. A truly exceptional performer can also make other performers stop and watch. And Jimin has repeatedly occupied that space. When major artists and industry figures praise or react positively to his work, fans naturally become excited. But underneath the excitement is something deeper. There is professional recognition. Artists understand how difficult live performance can be. They understand the pressure of singing while dancing. They understand the challenge of maintaining facial expressions under intense lighting. They understand the physical stamina required to perform demanding choreography repeatedly. And they know what it means to stand in front of tens of thousands of people and remain completely composed. That is why admiration from other performers carries a special weight. They know the difficulty behind what audiences see as effortless. Baltimore highlighted that effortlessness. Jimin made demanding performance look natural. That is perhaps one of his greatest strengths. The audience sees a smooth movement. Behind that movement are years of training. The audience sees confidence. Behind that confidence are countless rehearsals. The audience sees a few minutes of choreography. Behind those minutes is an enormous amount of physical preparation. This is what makes Jimin's performance story so compelling. The magic on stage is real, but it is built on discipline. His Baltimore appearance was not simply a spontaneous display of talent. It was the result of years of development, years of dancing, years of singing, years of performing in front of increasingly larger audiences, years of learning how to communicate through a camera, years of understanding how to control a stage. And all of that experience was visible in Baltimore. There was no need to prove that he belonged on that stage. He simply occupied it. One particularly impressive quality was his ability to remain expressive even during physically demanding choreography. This is something casual viewers may underestimate. When an artist is dancing intensely, maintaining vocal control and facial expression becomes extremely difficult. Yet Jimin consistently tries to preserve the emotional character of the song. He does not allow the choreography to completely consume his performance. Instead, the movement supports the emotion. That is the difference between performing steps and performing a song. Baltimore showed the latter. The choreography became a language. The expressions became punctuation. The music became the story. And Jimin became the storyteller. For ARMY, this created a night that felt larger than entertainment. It became an emotional experience. Many fans have followed Jimin through different eras of his career. They have watched him grow from a young member of BTS into a globally recognized solo artist and cultural figure. They have seen changes in his style. They have witnessed his confidence evolve. They have watched his artistic identity become increasingly distinct. Baltimore therefore carried another layer of meaning. It was not only about what Jimin did that night. It was about how far he had come. The The performer standing before the crowd was the result of years of growth, and fans could see that growth in his confidence. There was a maturity in his stage presence. He seemed comfortable with silence as well as noise. He knew when to push the energy higher. He knew when to allow a moment to breathe. He knew how to use the crowd. He knew how to use the camera. And perhaps most importantly, he knew how to use himself.